We're working on a project called Vector Icons in Adobe Illustrator, and I wanted to share with you a video on starting this project, and actually probably a few videos, and how to set up your documents. So I'm opening Adobe Illustrator, and according to the instructions on Blackboard, we have an 8" by 8" document. We're only using Adobe Illustrator. We're going to use image trace on no more or no less than 2 of our icons. We're going to use the pen tool to illustrate at least one, which I'll probably show you first. And we're going to use the Pathfinder at least on one of them. Image trace we've talked about in a previous class several times over, so we should be okay there. We're going to do them in color. There will be some detail, but not overly detailed, and each will be in a 100 by 100 point square. So we're going to use the rectangle tool for that. And there will be 5 icons total, and so I'll go ahead and set up those squares in an 8" format real quick. I also on Blackboard have shown you some examples of icons. This is just several rows and columns of them. Minimal detail on most of these, but you still get the idea. Mine might be a little bit more detailed. So let's get started. Let's get to Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to create a new document. And we want to change the units to inches so far. Eventually we might put points in there since we're doing some measurements in points. This is an 8" by 8" document, and so I might title this with my my last name, then my first name, but you would do your own name, and Project 4. Okay. So there's my 8" by 8" document, and to see the rulers you can hit Control-R on a PC. It's Command-R on a Mac, and we could see that that's 8" by 8". Now if we want to, we can change this to measure points, and if you wanted to do that, you can use the Control key or right click rather, and on these rulers and go to points. So we have now changed that to points. We can work between points and inches. It's up to you guys. Now, in order to create a rectangle that's 100 pixels by 100, or excuse me, 100 points by 100 points in this area, I'm going to locate the rectangle tool. Your toolbar may be elongated like this. I tend to click on the double arrow up here, and I can get to things a little quicker this way. So I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click. Don't drag, just click. And I'm going to type in 100 point by 100 point. Now I've already done this before, so I remembered my measurements from last time. You'll have to highlight these and type in your 100 points by 100 points. I hit OK, and you'll see that it created a 100 point by 100 point square. Now I want to put these 5 up on this page, and I want them more or less equally spaced. Now to copy and paste, I hold down the Alt key or Option key, and I can click and drag. And if I hold down the Shift key at the same time, you'll see that it copies, pastes, and keeps them in line. Now I can click and drag out in the white area and come in contact with these 2 that I just did. Again, holding down the Alt or Option key, clicking and dragging, holding down the Shift key, and drag them over to the right. I do have one that is in the center, so again I'm holding down the Alt or Option key, clicking on it and dragging on it, putting it in the center. Now these need to be spread out just a little bit better, so I am going to start working on that. Maybe spread these out just a smidge. There we go. Same thing here. Now you can use the Distribute tool for this. It's a real nice tool. Basically, you can grab all of these and go to Align, and you can tell them to distribute evenly. So you can say distribute evenly on their centers. Now, unfortunately, this center one throws it off. So I'm going to hit Control Z or Command Z, and I can grab just the top ones and the bottom ones. I'm holding down the Shift key when I do that. I'm not grabbing this middle one. You can see it's not selected. And I can go to distribute them evenly. Whoops, still counting that middle one. Okay, so basically, mathematically, I want these nice and centered. And you'll notice in Illustrator, when I move this, it'll tell you where the center is. Okay, so we want to distribute these nice and evenly and on the base off the centers. Okay, so here we go. These are fairly evenly distributed. Not sure if it's perfect, but I can get to that later. Doesn't look like it's exactly perfect. So let me make this exactly perfect. The cool thing is those green lines show up and they let you know when you really got it. Okay. Alright, so I'm getting these centered per the page. You know, to center them on the page, you can go to Align, and you can say Align to the artboard. Just group them before you do this. So you go to Object and Group, or Command G. Okay, Object, Group. And then when you go to the Align panel, of course this has changed a little bit. We align to the artboard, and we want to center that to the artboard. Same thing with this one. Center it this way. Okay, so these are nice and centered now. We want them perfect. Okay, so we're going to do an icon in each one of these squares. Now I'll probably create a layer for each square. Now right now we're on layer 1. So I'm going to create 5 total layers. Okay, this one is going to be, these are grouped, so let's ungroup them now. This one is going to be on layer 1. This one is going to be on layer 2. And to do that, you see he's currently on layer 1. You grab this little colored box that indicates the artwork is selected and move it to the next layer. And you'll see that that colored box changes the same color as the layer. This one's going to be layer 3, so again I'm going to grab that color of the box, go to layer 3, he's the green layer. This one I'm grabbing it, I'm going to layer 4. This one is the last one, I'm going to layer 5. I'm going to name these layers, okay? So let's say I have 5 icons about the great outdoors. Let's say zip lining is going to go in this one. To rename a layer, I double click on it, and I'm going to call this zip lining. Let's put that in 2 words. There we go. And as I work on my other ones, I'll rename those as well. Now, inside of these layers, you can have sub-layers. Like here it says there's a rectangle in this layer. I can even turn off all my other layers so I don't mess those up while I'm working on that layer. Okay, so let's work on this layer. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place a raster graphic in here that some visual research that I found off the internet. So I'm going to File and Place, and you'll see that in my computer, I have a project 4. I have all sorts of images that I can place in here. So I'm going to place a few of them, decide which one that I'm going to use. Now I'm going to hit Command 0 and just click that in there. Now that's much larger than what I needed, which is fine. But I just got to figure out which image I'm going to use. So I'm going to show you the ones I have to choose from. I have quite a few. Oops, that's not it. Excuse me. Now, the keyboard shortcut for place is on a Mac, Shift Command P. It's probably Shift Control P on a PC. There was one of these images that I wanted to use over the other ones, and I think it was this one. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use, this one or this one. We'll look at them closely. And again, they're really big right here. It's not a big deal. I do need something with enough detail. That's fairly detailed. That's okay. Kind of like that one. And the other one, he's coming straight at us, so... And that's also fairly detailed. You know, I don't want tons of detail. I think for now I'm going to work with this one out here. I'm just hitting Command minus to zoom out. Or Control minus. Okay, so I'm grabbing this picture. Now, what part of this picture do I want? I only want a small portion of it. I can resize this picture, so I'm going to use the Scale tool, which is here. It's got a big square with an arrow and a little square behind it. And what you want to do is double click on that Scale tool and always make sure that Scale, Strokes, and Effects are on. That's a horrible thing that by default oftentimes is off. So I always do that before I even start anything. Now, to scale this object, you do not just simply click and start dragging because it drags your graphics out of proportion. This is a big no-no in the industry. So you want to make sure you hold down the Shift key and click and drag while you do this. Now, in InDesign, it's Shift and Command. In Illustrator, it's just the Shift key. Now, I want to see the square box that's behind here. So in my Layers panel for ziplining, I'm taking the linked graphic and I'm moving it down below. And I'm going to fill this box right here with none. So I click on the fill color and hit none. Oops, clicked on that again. Hit none. There we go. Now I can see how he's fitting within the box. Again, I'm going to get my scale tool. I hold my Shift key down and I'm scaling this. Oops, excuse me, I just screwed up. I'm moving it. Again, I'm going to scale it a little bit. I'm getting it so that icon is going to fit perfectly in that box. Okay, so this is about as good as it gets. I'll probably have him have some trees underneath him. Definitely want to see the zip line as well. Okay, so when I zoom out, that's about as big as I have to work with. And when I zoom in, I still have enough detail. Okay. Now on this one, we're going to use the pen tool because that's the tougher of the tools. I'm not going to illustrate all the little pieces in the water. I will illustrate the horizon line. And when I'm working in Illustrator, I think about background to foreground. Now the square itself, I'm going to lock that little square. If I go to Layers panel again, I can open and close Layers. I'm going to hit the lock key or the lock item there. I even probably want to lock my image. Okay, so I'm going to think background to foreground whenever I'm drawing, and you can draw inside or outside the box. We can always clip it, but I'm going to draw right here. I'm going to fill that. Whoa, that was, my Illustrator's acting weird. So let's hit undo rectangle. Whoa, that was crazy. Let's try that again. Oh wow. Looks like I'm going to have to come back to this. I think I'll stop this video. I guess really for this one, we've got 5 rectangles. They're evenly spaced, nicely spaced. Let me turn these off for just a second. We use the alignment key panel for that. We had to group them at some point, but then we ungrouped them. Of course, I've got this locked. But we did use this alignment, and we aligned the artboard, and we also aligned to each other. So get this first, and I'm going to save this, and I'll come back and do a second video on starting this pen tool thing and drawing this little guy in here. Okay, so we'll come back and do another